In postseason football, you need to find that extra gear. On FanDuel, it's called Playoff Mode. Big boosts, more rewards, and a whole new way to live parlay with Drive SGP. Turn on Playoff Mode, only on FanDuel.
New customers bet $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. 21 plus and present in select states. First online real money wager only. $5 deposit required. Bonus issued as non-withdrawable bonus bets which expire 7 days after receipt. Restrictions apply. See full terms at FanDuel.com/sportsbook. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER or visit rg-help.com.
Every day at Sierra, you'll find top brand apparel, footwear, and gear for 20 to 60% less than department and specialty store prices. And during clearance time at Sierra, those incredible prices are 40 divided by 2.5, carry the 1, even lower. And when you shop clearance at Sierra, you can save a whole lot more on everything you need to get active and outside. That's a lot of saving. Epic brands, vast selection, teeny tiny prices. That's Sierra. Visit your local Sierra store today or shop online at Sierra.com.
We're here because your heightened awareness deserves heightened entertainment. The Last Show with David Cooper.
Do we all glow while we're alive? And does that glow dim when we die? And I'm not just talking about us people. I'm talking about all living things. It sounds science fiction-like. It sounds paranormal. But according to new research, this is all true. It's spooky. What does it all mean? I'm here with someone who has done this research. His name is Daniel Oblak. He's a physics and astronomy professor at the University of Calgary. Daniel, welcome to the show.
Well, thanks for having me on. I'm excited to talk about this.
I gotta wonder, what does this have to do with physics and astronomy? I imagine this would be like a biological kind of area of study. Side note, I understand emitting light is a very physics kind of thing. But walk me through why this is a physics problem.
Well, in some sense it isn't, and in some sense it is. I think, so actually beyond sort of the physics and astronomy tag I have on I'm also sort of into quantum research. So we could ask ourselves, what has this to do with quantum mechanics? Well, and there's a couple of different links to it. First of all, the tools we're using are tools that are really coming from the field that I'm in. So it's cameras that are ultra sensitive at the point that they can count single photons, single particles of light. So there's the technology aspect of it. And then there's also maybe an underlying, something we maybe can go into, an underlying question whether quantum mechanics plays a role in biological processes. So this is what we could call interdisciplinary research, because I don't know much about biology 2-3 years ago, and I've had to learn a lot about the kinds of biological processes and systems that are involved in this too.
At the risk of derailing, the quantum world, the world of the very small, functions in no way like the big world. Like, things happen, but they don't happen. Things can be in the same place at the same time, two different places. Things act like particles and waves. There's all kinds of weird stuff. And I guess the big question is, like, is that phenomenon being used in our brain? Is that phenomenon being used in our cells? Are these the kind of open questions you're investigating?
Yeah, that's really sort of the motivation and sort of our hot fever dreams is if we could sort of like figuring out that quantum mechanics does play a role in biological systems. This has partially been answered in the sense that we do know that there are certain things that where quantum mechanics, certain biological processes where quantum mechanics plays a role. For example, bird navigation is probably the most commonly and well-established area. So in order to sense a magnetic field, the birds use sort of molecules that have spins in them that depend on, they can sort of feel which direction the magnetic field is. But of course, when we're thinking about quantum mechanics in the brain, you could ask ourselves, well, first of all, does it play a role? Is there a reason to believe it plays a role? And yeah, there are unanswered questions in neuroscience, the question of consciousness, the question of anesthesia, and the binding problem, where you can say, okay, this is not really answered, so let's enroll quantum mechanics and see if that could help. And, these spooky things that, entanglement, sounds a little bit like something like consciousness, but this is more like hypothesis. And then we're looking for, okay, what is it that transmits this information? And that's where these photons could come into play. If all living processes, all living beings emit light, even very dimly.
Oh, we've got back on topic all of a sudden. I love it. Although I did really enjoy that derailing. Okay, I'm going to interrupt because let's break this down.
Yeah, for sure.
When we hear the headline, and it's been going around in science news for the last few days, that all living things glow, to the average person, that might sound mystical or paranormal.
For sure.
What is the unspooky physical thing that is actually going on when you say all living things glow?
Well, let me say something unspooky. Biochemistry.
I don't know. For some undergraduates, that might be a very scary word on exam night.
Yeah, I'm scary, yes, but spooky, not necessarily. I mean, we could think of it a little bit like so. What is happening is that when we metabolize in our body, it's a form of combustion, right? I mean, it's energy being converted from chemical energy to another form of energy. And so it involves chemical reactions, and some of these result in molecules that are in some excited states, and they decay, and very small fraction of those emit a little bit of light. So we can say that this is linked to metabolism, more specifically for those in the know, reactive oxygen species. And so really, it's a matter of measuring how much we metabolize. And obviously, when we die, we don't metabolize, so that thing goes away. But there's also other things that create reactive oxygen species or other similar free radicals, and that could be stress responses. So, that's another part of the study is to look at, well, in leaves specifically, do they respond to stress? Does this emission respond to stress, for example? So that's the unsexy. It's like mixing two chemicals together and seeing light, but something that's linked to the presence of life and metabolism in living beings.
Now, obviously, this is very faint. Like when I look at my mother, I'm not blinded by the light. I might have some hearing problems because she can be very, very overbearing at times. But like, how bright is this light coming off of living beings?
Well, I mean, it depends who you're looking at. When I look at my partner, I see a very bright light. So shout out to her for that.
That's very sweet.
But it is extremely, extremely faint. It's below the level that we can perceive with the human eye. So it's not when we do the experiments, we have a camera, this ultra sensitive camera. We put it in a dark tent where no lights are on, and inside a dark room where we block even the exit lights. Shh, don't tell anyone. So that it's really, really dark. I mean, you can't see a thing. So we're talking about like a few photons per centimeter squared per second, and this is below what a human eye can perceive.
Your research dances really close to ideas like auras, and I think that's why so many people are excited about it. Generally speaking, in the scientific literature and academic journals, this concept of auras and personalities based on light usually gets rejected as pseudoscience. How do you kind of separate your real biophysics from the pseudoscience when people are kind of reviewing your stuff and wanting to talk to you?
Yeah, I mean, and it's a good question because I also don't want to be dismissive. I mean, people have experiences that, again, I can't really comment on because, first of all, when we talk about aura, well, what is that? I can't find a scientific definition of it. And I think there's a lot of different ways that people perceive that. And I would rather stick to, this is what we see. What we're seeing does not generally fit what I hear people describe as aura. I mean, you can't perceive it as too weak to be perceived. It's not a halo around you. It's like looking at an image of the person. If you look at the mice that we have in our paper, I mean, you can see the outline of them. It's basically like a faint glow from them. But it's so I would say, I can refer to and explain what we're seeing in the physical domain, and I will leave others to try and see what they believe that they see as a separate thing.
In the metaphysical domain, I suppose.
Yeah.
You mentioned stress as giving organisms a slightly different faint glow. Is there a world where I go into a pitch dark room with a very sensitive camera and it takes a photo of me and it somehow gives me a diagnosis, maybe stress, maybe early disease detection? Is there a possible medical use for this?
Well, I mean, this is interesting, right? Because it is a non-invasive, so you don't actually way of looking at biological samples. You're not seeing, you're probing them or prodding them. You're just looking at it. It is very faint, and it does not transmit very well through tissue, so you can only kind of see the surface of you. But we're looking at, ideas within sort of maybe organ transplants or things where we want to see where things are alive, but we don't really want to probe it. Also, crop health could be another, plant health could be another way of exploring this.
Well, it's really cool research. Any quick takeaway that gets you really excited about finding out that all living organisms have this light that glows for them that fades when they die?
Well, as a quantum scientist, it's interesting to see quantum science being applied in the technologies and other areas. We've had a great collaboration with the National Research Council in Ottawa on this, and we hope to continue finding partners to collaborate with. So if you're out there, you think that this could have an idea sort of scientifically, this is really exciting.
Well, Daniel Oblak is a physics and astronomy professor. At the commercial break, he stressed very harshly that he's not an astrophysicist or an astrophysics professor, and he works at the University of Calgary. Daniel, I've really enjoyed talking to you. Thanks for being on the show.
Thank you so much.
The world is changing. From the misuse of AI and the rise of deepfakes to the dangerous spread of misinformation, it's getting harder for Canadians to separate fact from fiction. That's why having a trustworthy news source is vital. At Global News, we're committed to objective journalism that cuts through the noise. Stick to the facts. Global News, Canada's trusted news.